Hey everyone, me Kevin here. Plug Power. Wow, this is a viral stock that is literally on a rocket ship to the moon. This company is a company that makes commercial fuel cells for forklifts. And it's really gaining popularity now because those fuel cells are hydrogen, of course. Its customers include companies like Home Depot, Walmart, grocery stores, manufacturing facilities, and they mostly focus on the United States. Yet, so far, their United States operations have left something to be desired. They haven't been super profitable, they haven't been super great at expanding their revenue base, but the stock did recently start going to the moon under speculation and eventual announcement of, well, not only a big push towards electric vehicles and the electrification of vehicles and vehicle space, but a new 50-50 joint venture announced yesterday with the French company Renault, and that's spelled Renault, but it's pronounced Renault. Now, let's take a look at that partnership letter, and let's get a little bit more of an idea and understanding of what the heck is going on at Plug Power, and is it a company that we want to invest in? So let's take a peek at the letter. This is the partnership announcement letter. This is the Renault and Plug Power join forces to become a leader in hydrogen light commercial vehicles. This, by the way, a space ripe for disruption because think about how much hype Nikola had. Nikola looking more at that heavy commercial vehicle space. This would be more of that van, that mid-sized commercial vehicle space. At least that's where they're going to start, and then in the future they might go to passenger commercial vehicles, aka buses. But there's a lot of excitement around the potential for green energy in the commercial vehicle space, and this partnership has a lot of folks excited. So this is an understanding that they will have a 50-50 partnership based in France by the end of the first half of 2021. That is when they want to launch this partnership. So they're going to launch this partnership by June at the latest. Their goal is to get a 30% share of the fuel cell-powered light commercial vehicle market in Europe. Keep that number in mind, 30%. That's going to become very important here in just a moment. A joint venture will establish in France state-of-the-art innovation and manufacturing capabilities for hydrogen fuel cell systems and their integration into vehicles. So basically, Renault makes vehicles and trucks. Plug makes hydrogen fuel cells. And so the idea here is, hey, let's get married and make a hydrogen truck. It's kind of like Nikola, except they actually have a company that manufactures vehicles, kind of like the GM to Nikola. And then rather than Nikola, you actually have a company that has hydrogen fuel cell technology. So I guess it's really nothing like Nikola. But anyway, we got to drop the Nikola meme jokes. For now, we got to focus on Plug here. The partnership provides a unique value proposition, turnkey fuel cell vehicle solutions with hydrogen fuel refueling infrastructure and services. See, one of the things that Plug does as well is they also provide fuel contracts. That's another source of their revenue. So that way, if you have, let's say, a forklift at Home Depot, they will come and provide you the hydrogen and obviously sell that and take a fee for doing so. Now, the goal is for this hydrogen solution to come in the coming years. And this is very vague in terms of when we're going to see these vehicles. Right now, there's a lot of excitement over the fact that it says this partnership is going to start at the first half of, or the end of the first half of 2021. But keep in mind, it's going to be a while before they actually produce a vehicle that has, hydrogen built into it. They want to create something that's fully vertically integrated, which a lot of, this deserves a lot of applause. It's a great and very disruptable market. Whether or not they will be able to disrupt the market, I think, is partially going to depend a lot on the government and hydrogen infrastructure. We'll talk about that in a moment. But, I mean, this reads very excitingly. Their goal is to establish a vertically integrated fuel cell stack and system manufacturing center in France for integration into light commercial vehicle platforms. That's the manufacturing. They're going to establish their research and development partnership first by creating this innovation center. So that's really what they're doing here in 2021 is they're creating this innovation center and launching this partnership to say, all right, let's huddle up and let's figure out how are we going to put these hydrogen fuel cells that we got here on these forklifts. Look, we even brought you a sample. and put them into some of y'all trucks. and then we kind of merge here and maybe produce a production vehicle or maybe a prototype fleet vehicles or test fleet vehicles that they could start getting off the line, who knows, maybe in 2022 at some point. Now, keep in mind, even if they get vehicles off the line in 2022 and you get some partnerships like, hey, here I am, I'm Amazon, I'll buy a couple of your trucks. Here I am, I'm, some other French company or whatever, I'll buy a few of your trucks. Remember, when you have these partnerships and they do these test fleets, this is something that you had with Hyliion as well, and you get this with XL, another one of these. You get these with a lot of these SPACs. What they do, and these partnerships and all these sort of green, transitionary goals or companies that are trying to focus on sustainable energy. What you get is they produce a test vehicle and they sell it to companies, and they're like, hey, let us know how you like it. And they're basically praying that the companies fall in love with their vehicle. They're like, oh my gosh, they love the vehicle, it's energy efficient for them, it's easy for them to fuel it, and all of a sudden, that company that's buying this test fleet item is coming back going, hey, look, we love the first 2 trucks we got. Can you sign us up for another 500, and when can you deliver them? That's the hope with these companies. And so keep that in mind. A lot of this can be a little bit hopium-based, but it is a market that's very ripe for disruption. In fact, I just noticed this here. The JV will start commercializing fuel cell light commercial vehicles in Europe starting in 2021 with pilot fleet deployments. Okay, so they actually think even in 2021, see, I thought this was going to be a 2022 event. They think even in this year, which my guess would be the very end of this year, they might be able to start getting some of their pilot fleet or test fleet deployments out. So we'll see. Now, something that's very important to consider as well is what governments are doing, especially in Europe. Remember, this is now a partnership with a European company to basically make Plug profitable, to make Plug great. So to help me understand what the excitement is for hydrogen, I am going to a very, very biased source so I can know what's the ultimate bull case here, right? The bear case is obviously none of this happens, and hydrogen infrastructure just doesn't come, and Plug doesn't end up selling as many vehicles as they think they will, and the partnership fails. That's obviously the bear case. We know that. So what's the really bull case? Well, if you go to hydrogeneurope.eu, you can see bull cases because Hydrogen Europe is a European association, and what they do is they represent people in the fuel cell industry and people who would profit from hydrogen doing very well. So what's great about this is they give us not only their bull case, but they give us some possible downsides. So their goal is to see 10,000 hydrogen powered trucks that are expected by 2025 and up to 100,000 hydrogen trucks on European roads by 2030. And then after 2030, then they want to switch over and disrupt the aviation and the maritime sector. So basically, traveling by air and sea, that's when they want to disrupt that. So remember, Plug Power said they want a potential 30% share of the European market. That's their bull case. So this company is saying, we want 30% of this market. We're going to bull case over here. They're saying, hey, we want to see 100,000 vehicles on the road by 2030. So what we can do here is we can say, okay, well, if we take bull case by bull case, that would mean Plug gets to make 30,000 hydrogen vehicles over the next decade. Now, in my opinion, it's useful to know a few things here. This, first of all, is what a light commercial vehicle is. It's kind of like a small Sprinter van. In fact, Mercedes has one. You could look at the Mercedes Metris. That is kind of the smaller version of the Sprinter van. They call it the baby Sprinter. But these are light commercial vehicles. They're kind of like something you could still fit in your garage, but they're designed for that European market. And this is a very common, like almost handy person type vehicle, mostly because you've got smaller streets in Europe. It's good for local deliveries, great for the local post office. Look, they've even got an ambulance here that they've created this out of. And you frequently see this in place of pickup trucks in Europe. you see very few pickup trucks in Europe. So think of, if light commercial in America is really signified by the pickup truck, you're much more likely to see these van-style vehicles in Europe. Sometimes you do see these, but honestly, most of the time you're seeing the covered vehicles. But something that's very interesting as well is take a look at this. If you jump over here to Statista, they will give us an idea of how many light commercial vehicles sell in Europe. And so in 2020, as of October 2020, there were 1.4 million vehicle sales just in Europe by October 2020, which, just to compare those numbers, 100,000 light commercial vehicles represents about 5 to 7% of the annual sales of light commercial vehicles in 1 year in Europe. Except they're saying over the next 10 years, we want to get a total of 100,000 vehicles. AKA, they are aiming to get a very small sliver of this market. And so what I feel like we could do here is we could do something pretty basic. And this is potentially a little oversimplified, but it's going to give us some ideas, especially when we get into the numbers for Plug. We're going to want to do that. Let's jump on over here for a second. Let's say that over the next 10 years, Plug ends up getting the 30% they're looking for. Which would be about 30,000, right? 30,000 based on 100,000 total expected by 2030. So by 2030, Plug produces 30,000 vehicles. The average price of these is probably somewhere around 40,000 bucks. So this gives us a total revenue potential for, and it's a hydrogen vehicle, so maybe it's slightly more, but let's multiply these two and get a total revenue projection here. That's $1.2 billion. It's pretty good as gross revenues. If we go ahead and throw a net margin onto this, we could potentially see, let's say, it's a 50-50 partnership, right? So let's say they have even a 15% net margin, which would be pretty good. But then you've got to split that by 50%. That's maybe $90 million in net income for this stock. That revenue is nice, but it's going to be buttered over the latter half of this decade if they get to their 30% of Europe market. And maybe that market, maybe that bullish case is small. Maybe they're gonna be way more than 100,000 hydrogen light commercial vehicles on the road by 2030. I'm gonna say if that is a bullish case from a hydrogen association, that's probably a bullish case. Like, I don't think it's going to exceed that. If anything, usually when you get a hydrogen association going, we're going to get 100K of these vehicles on the road by 2030, we're probably going to undershoot that a little bit, which means, Plug's revenue here in this decade is probably going to be a little less than expected. I think most of their revenue is going to still hang on the forklift sector until we really get to 2030, where this becomes a big profit machine. So by 2030, okay, now that could start becoming interesting if this really catches on and we get that infrastructure coming in, that hydrogen fueling ability where you've got these hydrogen corridors where they're like, yeah, I could use this and I could get myself hydrogen everywhere. You don't have hydrogen fueling stations, it's really difficult to sell hydrogen fuel cars. So hydrogen right now is stuck between a really kind of difficult spot. Now do keep in mind, they do want to sell hydrogen fuel itself as well. So it's unclear what kind of profits they would make from selling that fuel. That's what they do with the forklifts right now. So we'll see, are they going to do that in Europe or not? I guess that's not 100% clear. All right, so here are some facts regarding Plug Power. So let's look at the revenue here. We're gonna go straight to revenue here. 2016, they had 85 million in revenue, went up to 100 mil. That's a change of 16%. Then they almost doubled here, went up to 174 million in revenue in 2018. That's up 74%. Went up another 31% in 2019, and up another 55% in 2020. This growth trajectory, absolutely incredible. I mean, so far that growth has been insane. In terms of projections going forward, this is pretty good too. Look at these projections here. You got 38% projected for 2021, 48% for 2022, 51% for 23, and 42% for 24. These are some huge expectations in revenue growth, and that's phenomenal. That's really, really good. I mean, right here, this the amount of revenue that they're expecting to make by 2024, almost exceeds what we think that Plug Power might be able to do in hydrogen vehicle deliveries. Because remember, with hydrogen vehicle deliveries with the Renault partnership, we were expecting about maybe 1.2 billion in total revenues over this next decade, right? If they get 30,000 vehicles of that 100,000 vehicle expectation from the Hydrogen Association. And who knows, maybe they're shooting low, but usually those hydrogen commissions, they're really, really bullish. And that report was just from December 2020 here. So you could see that their actual fundamental business, their underlying business, it's exploding. They've got some explosive growth here. Let's understand margin here. So we've got net income. Let's go down. Let's look at gross margin first, and we can sort of compare this to other vehicle manufacturers. So we get to gross profit here. Okay, we've got a margin here of about 4.5%. Here they lost money. They're expected to have about a 1.5% margin in 2018, or had a 1.5% margin in 2018, 12% margin in 2019, 4% margin in 2020. Going forward, here we go. It looks like by 2021, we're actually going to start seeing some consistent margins of around 19 to 20, 24%. Now that's when this company is actually going to get to some more profitability. Let's see what that brings their net margin to. So net income wise, let's go to a more recent date here. So 2020, as of September, we had a net margin of about negative 30%. So losing money in 2021, losing money in 2022. But look at this, by 2024, this company is expected to be solidly profitable. 2023 would be the first year of profitability here with about a 1% margin. About 10% margin over here, bringing about 10% to the bottom line just to make math easy, by 2024. So this is really when the company is going to start having a valuation that is much more tangible. That would give them an earnings per share of 22 cents. 22 cents. Based on today's share price, by the way, today's share price, they are, let's see, Plug Power stock. Today's share price is $70.99. They are up another 7% on the day. I mean, just the stock that's literally going to the moon here. So $70.99 divided by 22 cents in earnings estimated for 2024. That puts this company right now selling for 322 times 2024 earnings, estimated earnings. It's pretty expensive. To understand a little bit more of this current revenue, because right now it seems like the stock is really accelerating its trading price on this hydrogen partnership in France with Renault, that really I don't think we're going to see that translate to revenue until 2030. So we're really placing 10-year bets here. And I think a lot of people who are trading into Plug right now aren't thinking about this as a 10-year trade before, when we actually start seeing those revenues come down. But let's take a peek here. I mean, who knows? Maybe they are. Hopefully they are. But we've got solid revenue growth, and we're expecting that revenue growth to continue to blow up. A lot of that coming from sales of fuel cell systems. See, another thing that I like to do is understand where their revenue comes from. So let's just look at the 2019 here. That's the last one that we have here. 2019. Yeah, this is the annual report for 2019. So we've got sales of fuel cell systems and related infrastructure, fuel delivered to customers, power purchase agreements where people are continuously buying the fuel from the company, and we've got some other revenue over here. It looks like, let's see here, the top revenue here in 2019, 149 million, came from probably delivering the fuel cell systems, so the actual hydrogen forklifts. And then somewhere around 29 million of that's actually coming from fuel. So a big bulk of their expenses right now are actually coming from delivering the vehicles, the actual forklifts and that. That's actually a very expensive endeavor. Cost of sales of the fuel cell systems has, in 2019 at least, been much more expensive than what they're actually bringing in. And that's why they've been losing money. Is they're losing money on selling these products. To me, it almost kind of feels like Plug Power is, I wonder if we could draw this analogy, if this makes sense. It kind of feels like a printer company where they're trying to supply as many offices with printers as possible, and then they hope to bank on the hydrogen sales, aka the ink sales, for the next couple decades. That's probably an analogy we could use for Plug. So, in terms of moves here, how do we understand this company? Is this a company that we should invest in? I've got 3 ideas for maybe how to trade this. Those are, number one, you could trade this stock knowing that people have already made a killing on the stock, and it wouldn't shock me to see that kind of continue because we are going into this insane virality around green energy. And this becomes more of a social trade, right? This is more like, I think more people are going to look to invest their money into green energy. I am going to put my money where the money is currently at and where it's going. In fact, if we go ahead and look at who's owning this stock, we can actually see that a lot of this stock is owned by institutional investors. I'll pull that up right here. So this on screen here will show us that right now, this particular stock is owned 1.4% by individuals, 1.95% by pension funds, but instead it's owned by almost 93% investment advisors and hedge fund managers. So really what you've got here is the institutions going nuts over this company so that they can sell their clients, hey, look, we're investing in this green energy company. We think it's going to be great. Obviously, it's been an insane performer so far, but you've got some really big institutional holds here so far. The only danger with that is when these institutions decide, okay, it's time to rotate out, they're going to rotate out with really big numbers, like massive numbers, are all of a sudden going to roll over to a different company. I don't know if these institutions will stay in Plug for the 10 years it might take to really start seeing that scale and profitability. Think about Tesla, for example. With Tesla, we can see the future, right? We know that, okay, Tesla's already producing vehicles. We could see their margin on these vehicles. We've been able to see that for Tesla for at least the last 2 years, certainly possibly longer, but it was more risky before the Model 3 was introduced, a mass market vehicle, much more risky venture. But, even in 2018-19, it was pretty clear that Tesla's revenues were going to be entirely possible to fulfill, or their expectations for revenue, because we knew they've got endless demand, it seems, right now. We know their manufacturing abilities are scaling. We know the infrastructure exists with the supercharger networks, and it's easy to plug your car in anywhere. There are supercharger networks around the country. So the infrastructure's there. The demand is there. The margin is there. That's an easier company to value. What we have here with Plug is, all right, we're doing really, we're growing our revenue with these hydrogen fuel celled forklifts. Now, if we want to disrupt the hydrogen light commercial vehicle market, or create a hydrogen light commercial vehicle market, we're going to need a lot of help to get infrastructure going. We need hydrogen gas stations located throughout Europe, which we don't really have right now. We need people to then adopt hydrogen and like hydrogen and want to pay a premium for hydrogen versus just buying the diesel that they're buying now, which in Europe, fuel is much more expensive than it is in America, so maybe that'll be an incentive. The government would obviously have to support these green initiatives, which I expect that they will. France and Germany probably very, very progressive. The EU in general, very progressive in that direction. But we're really making a bet here on, hey, maybe we'll get to see that manufacturing line cranking vehicles, and we get to see what we see with Tesla now, or what we saw with Tesla 2 years ago. Might take this company until 2025, 26, 27 to actually realize. And so while maybe it makes sense to trade this stock now, whether you want to swing trade it or kind of social trade it, it is very possible that there could be a large rotation out of this stock at some point in the near term. And by near term, I mean over the next year, which if you are planning on buying and holding this company, you potentially want to be prepared for like a QuantumScape kind of style slap, where we get this insane run up and then we get this insane drop off. As people don't have the patience for real manufacturing to come up. So we'll see. Yeah, the third answer here is just waiting it out. Maybe you want to own Plug. I mean, their revenues are exploding in their forklift business. They'll be profitable in 2023, 2024. But maybe instead of trading it, you just hold the darn thing and wait for these hydrogen partnership announcements that could really bring Plug to new levels. But in terms of valuation right now, it's it's got a lot of hope built into it. And I am slightly concerned that hope, trading at 322 times 2024 estimated earnings, that's a little pricey right now. So we'll see how this develops. This is definitely a company that I want to keep my eye on. I'm bullish for the hydrogen sector. I am worried that people think this hydrogen revolution is around the corner. And I don't think it is. I think the hydrogen revolution, it's coming. It is, there will be a hydrogen revolution, don't get me wrong. But I really think hydrogen is a 2030 to 2040 event. And so maybe it makes sense to be much more involved in hydrogen in like 2027, 2028. So really, I think we might be 5, 6, 7 years more premature here, which is risky because if people end up rotating out because they're impatient and they end up going to EVs, or battery manufacturers, that's going to be a little bit more of an issue for hydrogen stocks. So those are my 2 cents. If you found this helpful, consider subscribing for this sort of deeper perspective. I'm not going to make a prediction here in the short term. This thing could entirely shoot past 100 and just go to the moon. But know what you're getting and go into this stock with a strategy. If you're going into this stock as a buy and holder, know what you're buying. If you're going in as a trader, well, be prepared. You've got massive institutions that are holding this, and they can move more money in and keep skyrocketing this, or you could see a rotation out. So be prepared either way. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. If you found it helpful, consider sharing. And folks, we'll see you in the next video.